Mayor Fischer, my name is Rukmini Kalimaki. I'm a journalist with the New York Times. I wanted to ask you, number one, if the city has admitted any fault as a result of the settlement. And secondly, my second question is for Ms. Tamika Mallory. If the law does not allow the Attorney General to charge the officers that returned fire in self-defense, what will be the answer of protesters and demonstrators seeking justice for Breonna Taylor?
Yeah, no, this agreement or settlement agreement does not say that there was any wrongdoing done. In this case, it's just an acknowledgement of the need for reform and the need for a settlement to take place.
Next question is from Jonathan Allen from Reuters. Oh, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't in any way, as the leader of Until Freedom, one of the 4 leaders of Until Freedom, speak for all of the protesters who are here locally in Louisville. We will be led by the actions of the family, the actions of the local organizers. But I will say that we will make sure that our voices continue to be heard. And if it is a legal situation that they come out with as a reason for non-indictment, then we need to work with Katora and the ACLU and others to fight on that end as well.
Thank you. Jonathan Allen from Reuters asks, how will you monitor and measure progress on the reforms announced today? Will there be regular public reporting of how many officers use housing credits, how many warrants are issued, and if so, how frequently?
Yeah, all that, obviously, we're in the process of getting started to make sure that people know that we're accountable for the promises that we've made, and we can issue a report on that in terms of what that looks like from an accountability standpoint.
Mr. Mayor, this is Graham Ambrose with WFPL. The city is anxiously awaiting the decision from Attorney General Cameron. In other cities across the country, we've seen federal forces get called in to quell unrest or just whenever there are protests in some cases. Do you know of any plans for federal forces to come in when the decision's released or otherwise?
Nothing specific in terms of the general community. I understand that there's been some request for some federal protective services for the not for the grand jury, but for the business, or for the federal courthouse, excuse me.
Tessa from the Courier-Journal again. This is for Lanita Baker and Ben Crump. We've heard about a lot of the reforms that you are getting, but is there anything that you pushed for that you did not get or that you wish you had gotten?
They always say when you're negotiating, everyone's supposed to walk away without receiving everything that they received. I will say, however, in this case, the most important areas of reform were provided. Metro was very willing to work with us on that, the things that we felt important. And as I also stated, that we recognize that this is not the end of reform. So we look forward to continuing to work with the city, our leaders, our legislative leaders in Frankfurt to continue additional reform. We're not done yet.
What was important to me and Lanita and Sam was what was most important to Tamika Palmer and Bianca, who really was studying what reform would look like to try to prevent the next Breonna Taylor from happening. And I think to that end, the city was very responsive in trying to make sure there was measurable, systematic reform that could be a model for other citizens and other cities to protect their citizens. And so I think in the name of Breonna Taylor, this is landmark in its scope. And I believe just like Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown helped bring greater attention in America to Black Lives Matter, I believe Breonna Taylor's name is going to bring greater attention in America to Black women lives matter too.
Okay, we're going to have time for just a couple more questions. One more from here. One more from here.
Dalton Godby, WDRB. Mr. Mayor, Why does the settlement not address the body cam failure in the Breonna Taylor case? And then also a question for Mr. O'Connell. Do you have any plans to drop all charges against nonviolent protesters?
Right, so Breonna's law has passed already here locally. I suspended the use of no-knock, and then the council took it up and eliminated them, and so that eliminates no-knock warrants and requires the use of body cameras on anyone that is executing a search warrant, so that's already in place.
I can tell you we've taken steps in my office to already look at every case and place them in what I would call a file of the least offensive sort of charges to the middle, and then obviously the most serious. There are a lot of serious offenses that were committed that we have to address, not the same way we would on this end. So to answer your question, I'm going to look at them very carefully. We're going to make a decision, but I think we're going to see some movement in the right direction.
Tonight with WHS 11, Mayor Greg Fischer, is this settlement a reflection that the officers acted wrong? And another question, is there a reason why you added increased drug and alcohol testing of officers involved in shootings? Why was that added specifically?
On the second question, that's just a good practice for any organization to make sure that everyone is operating their responsibilities in a straight manner. On the first, no, this is just an agreement that between the parties without saying anybody did anything wrong. It's just coming together with these reforms and then a financial settlement.
Okay, our last question comes from Kate Howard from the Kentucky Center for Investigative Journalism. You mentioned reform as it relates to the case, and if not, can you address why it's part of this settlement?
I think, Mike, I'll give that to you.
Well, Lanita, I'll let you go first. And then,
It's not an issue. It's not an issue specifically within this case, but you know, there's allegations out there, and this piece of reform is to protect the community as well as officers with any allegations as it relates to currency seizure. So now it's as they come into contact with money, they must always have a second officer with them, and they must also, both officers must have their body cameras on until they turn to the property room. So it's not that it was an issue in this case, it's just with some of the things that were coming up.
Okay, if any media have any other questions, you can direct them to my email, jean.porter@louisvilleky.gov, and we'll get those routed as need be.
All right, thank you everybody for attending today, and we hope this announcement is one step in moving our city and our country forward. Thanks everybody.